let's be honest. Unless you're a fan of Florida, you don't expect the Gators to do too much this year. Vegas has them with the over-under win total of 4.5. And Billy Napier, we already know about the story. His job is on the line. Florida has to win. And they got the toughest schedule in college football. But could Florida beat the odds and surprise us all this year and overachieve? Now, what is overachieving if you're Florida this season when the bar is set really low? I mean, if you win 5-6 games, that could be considered a reason to keep Billy Napier, right? For me, Florida overachieving would be them getting to 6 wins. And as crazy and insane as that sounds for a school like Florida that's rooted in so much tradition, they got a pretty good team this year. And I've never been low on Florida because they've lacked talent. Okay, offensively, this could be the most underrated offense in the SEC walking into this season. They got a really deep wide receiver room. Eugene Wilson, Elijah Badger. They're going to end up being one of the best wide receiver duos in this conference. You got Chimere DK, who is a transfer from Wisconsin. He already has a good relationship with Graham Mertz because him and Graham Mertz were playing with each other up there in Wisconsin before he came down to Florida. You already know your rushing attack is going to be really effective. If Florida's offensive line can be solid or better, this is going to be a really deadly and potent offense. And it doesn't even matter if Billy Napier is calling the plays. It's hard for your offense to be average or below average if you have this much talent around you. Okay, with Graham Mertz, he's proven that he can be a really good quarterback. I don't think that he's mid or average. I think that he's really good. He's just not elite. He potentially could play at an elite level with the supporting cast that he has to throw to this season. Defensively, you got some talent there as well. You got some good depth pieces on the defensive line. Are you going to be able to get after the quarterback this year? We will see. But you got Joey Slackman, who is a transfer from Penn. He was Ivy League Defensive Player of the Year. He was one of the better interior defensive linemen in the portal. You also went heavy on improving your secondary in the portal as well. You got a dude named Aja Turner, who spent a few years starting for Washington. You put him in the back end of that secondary with Castell, who was a freshman All-American last year. Like, there's talent on Florida. The question is, can the coaching maximize this talent? Because that's been my only problem with Florida. People make it seem like, oh, you're just hating on Florida. You overlooking us having a top 5 portal class. You overlooking how well Billy Napier has recruited. It doesn't matter how much talent you have if you don't have the right coaching. We've seen this story with Texas A&M with Jimbo Fisher. But if Billy Napier actually ends up being the coach that Florida thought he would be when they hired him from Louisiana, I could see this being an 8-win team. Let's say the time management issues and the bad in-game decision-making go away spontaneously this year, then Florida definitely is good enough to win 8 games. Okay, the talent is there. In terms of talent, they are probably around like top 8, top 7 in the SEC, at least offensively. Defensively, they may not be good as what Tennessee, Kentucky, and some of the other schools are, but this is definitely a roster that would be an 8-win team if they had a coach like Kalen DeBoer or even Steve Sarkisian. Billy Napier this season is going to define if he deserves to be a Power 5 head coach or a Power 4 head coach, Because when you're coaching in the SEC, every week it seems like you're going up against a good team and everybody has a somewhat difficult schedule to a certain extent. So if you can't win 6 games this year, then what makes anybody think that you're going to be able to ever win 6 games with how difficult the SEC is going to be for the foreseeable future? This team, to me, should at least win 7-8 games if Billy Napier is a good coach. I get that they got some really tough games. You got to play Texas on the road. You got to play Georgia. But from a talent standpoint, I don't think the gap is too far from them to pull off an upset on the road against Texas, or for them to beat a school like LSU, or to beat Florida State. For as tough as what the Gators schedule is this season, there definitely are a ton of winnable games. You could beat Miami week 1. And this is coming from a Miami Hurricane fan. Y'all call me biased, but I'm just being honest. I think that it's a 60% chance Miami wins and a 40% chance that Florida could end up pulling off the upset. Okay? You could beat UCF. You got a chance to beat Tennessee. You have had Tennessee's number in the past, and the talent is good enough to beat Tennessee. For Florida, I think the ceiling, if everything goes right for them this year, is 8 wins. 8-4. But the floor is really low. And the reason why I'm not high on Florida has nothing to do with them not having the talent. It has everything to do with Billy Napier. This is Billy's prove-it year. 6 wins would be a little bit of a disappointment considering what Florida used to be when you think of the Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow days. But if he can get to 7 wins, that would be an overachievement to me. 6 wins, I wouldn't consider that being overachieving because you just barely met the mark. You did what you needed to do to keep your job and buy yourself another year. But 7, 8 wins, massive achievement for Billy Napier. And if that happens, he should win Coach of the Year. But normally, when you have a coach under this much pressure, that's on the hot seat, that refuses to give up what's been his biggest Achilles heel, he normally ends up having met his demise. And I think that's what's going to happen with Billy Napier. I think that him not giving up the play calling is going to be huge. But, the talent is there. They got a good quarterback. They got weapons around Graham Mertz. And the talent definitely is there on defense. If they step up under Austin Armstrong, this is an 8-win team at best. But we will see if Florida can end up beating the odds and surprising us all this year.